Within a massive arena in South Korea, thousands of spectators scream frantically as they await the performers of the Huntress Collective to begin their spectacular performance. What none of these admirers realize is that the group members are not merely entertainers, but warriors against monstrous entities. Previously, infernal creatures would invade the realm where they harvested the spirits of their prey to channel tremendous energy to their commander, known as Goma. However, the monster army was confronted by three mystical champions. These fighters wielded voices capable of repelling the shadow of demonic entities, and a unity among people created by the trio's melodies formed a defensive barrier. This protection is called Hanmoon, and at the start of each era, a new trio of warrior performers is selected to continue this duty. After recounting the complete history of her predecessors, Celine addresses her three students, Mira, Rumi, and Zoe, and explains that they will be responsible for establishing the ultimate barrier. Feeling assured, the trio prepares to begin their quest. And at twilight, the Huntress supporters gather at the arena to witness the concluding performance of their grand world journey. When he observes that the performers haven't appeared yet, Bobby, the collective's coordinator, becomes anxious and uses his device to discover their location. On their private aircraft, the performers chat while consuming large amounts of food so they have sufficient strength to deliver their final performance. Just then, Rumi receives a video call from Bobby, who inquires about their whereabouts. But the discussion ends up being disrupted by the supporters who grab the manager's device so they can speak to the performers. The man quickly recovers his phone and asks why the trio are so delayed. Gazing through the aircraft's window, the performers discover that the plane has already flown past the arena, and they realize that the cabin crew don't even appear to have noticed. Annoyed, Rumi tells Bobby that they will be landing in a few moments. And after concluding the call, the leader approaches one of the attendants. Not wanting to waste another moment of her time, the performer says she's determined what's happening and that all the flight attendants are infernal entities in disguise since their behavior doesn't appear to make any logic. Additionally, Rumi grasps one of the woman's limbs and observes that she has multiple hellish symbols around her form. Understanding that they have already been exposed, the demons then show their actual appearance and declare that they will destroy every single supporter in that arena. Upon learning this, the performers go into fury and after preparing themselves, they launch to assault their adversaries, attacking each of them while singing their melodies to create Hanmoon around the aircraft. Shortly after, the trio uses one of the plane's containers to strike the monsters, and so they can finish them off completely. They decide to summon their battle weapons, which are formed with the essence of the mystical barrier. The collective then begins to assault the infernal entities, destroying each one with simplicity. But at that instant, they observe that some of the creatures have fled, taking fragments of the aircraft with them. So, the performers finish their instant meals as rapidly as possible. And without losing any time, they leap out of the plane, beginning a free fall toward the arena. Now that they've reached their concert, the entertainers jump onto the platform to destroy the monsters that survive the descent, and Zoe hurls one of her blades at the final one, eliminating it with ease. With the danger of the infernal entities neutralized, the Huntress Collective performs their show for all their supporters and are tremendously thrilled to observe that part of Hanmoon is becoming golden for the first time. At the conclusion of the show, the great mystical shield is finally established and spreads throughout the area, capturing the demons who are about to invade the human realm once more. In the underworld, one of the creatures that had infiltrated the collective's plane approaches her superior. And although she is terrified of being disciplined, she claims that she was unable to halt the performers as they have excellent combat abilities. In a fury, Guei Ma uses his infernal flame to destroy the creature, stating that he is exhausted of witnessing his monsters fail miserably. Observing yet another of their group being disciplined by the Lord of the Underworld, the hellish entities feel frightened, at which point Jinnu appears. Using his banjo, the young man performs a melody as he approaches Guei Ma with his infernal tiger, accompanied by his teammates. After being questioned why he was doing all this, Jinnu reveals that he has a fresh idea of how to confront the champions and states that this time they will have a tremendous opportunity of succeeding. The young man explains that to weaken all of Hanmoon's power, they must establish a false musical collective so they can steal every single supporter that maintains the barrier standing. Despite finding the concept amusing, Guei Ma decides to permit the group to initiate the plan. And as he knows that Jinnu has always acted with only himself in consideration, he asks what his requirement will be to execute this mission. Upon learning this, the young demon recalls the actions he committed in the past and states that all he desires is for his memories to be erased. Back at the arena, the trio are encouraged by the appearance of a golden fragment in their Hanmoon. And after bidding farewell to Bobby and his team, they depart toward their building. Happy to finally be able to rest, Zoe and Mira grab dozens of snacks from the kitchen and head for the couch so they can relax somewhat. At the same time, Rumi decides to release the collective's new album so they can generate the Golden Han Moon as quickly as possible. Shortly after, the performer goes to a gigantic wardrobe where she encounters the new outfits they will be wearing during their next world journey. Rumi quickly goes to Zoe and Mira, who panic when they observe that their friend is already wearing her new outfit. Just then, Bobby appears stating that the entire world is already listening to the new album. And despite being exhausted, the performers feel excited and decide to continue with their work. Several days later, the collective does an interview in one of the city's studios and reveal that their next concert will occur in a few moments where they will broadcast their new melody to all their supporters. While her friends were preparing for the recording, Rumi went to her dressing room and began to examine the infernal symbols around her arms. Trying not to think about it, the entertainer puts her outfit back on and returns to the studio with her friends to begin recording the new melody. Suddenly, Rumi's voice breaks, and she is confused as to why this could have occurred. The young woman then asks the producers to restart the recording, but her voice fails once more, and Bobby asks if everything is fine with his friend, as she doesn't understand what's happening. Rumi asks them to take a 5-minute break, causing the coordinator to panic as tens of thousands of supporters are waiting for the trio outside. In her dressing room, the young woman unzips her neck and discovers that her symbols have spread once more, compromising her voice. Thanks to this, Rumi panics and flees the scene, running through the city so she can get away from everyone. In doing so, the performer remembers the conversation she had with Selena in the past, at which point, it is revealed that the young woman is the daughter of a powerful demon who had a romantic relationship with her mother, who was a great mystical champion. So she could stay focused, the woman explained that her student was not like those creatures, and that her symbols would disappear as soon as the Golden Han Moon appeared. Despite knowing this, the young woman had always been taught to hide her secret from everyone and decided to do the same with her best friends. After several minutes of running around the city, Rumi reaches the top of one of the buildings. And no matter how many times she tries to repeat the lyrics, she can't complete the melody. Outraged, the young woman starts screaming, causing a shock wave to be generated from her anger, which makes her increasingly worried. Hours later, Rumi meets up with her friends at her apartment. And upon hearing her friends say that her voice is failing, Zoe tries to comfort her, stating that she has an idea of how to solve this situation. The next day, the trio disguises themselves so they can walk the streets, and Zoe takes her friends to Dr. Han's office, where they receive a box of throat remedies that will help the young woman recover. As they leave the venue, the entertainers encounter a group of young men approaching them, and because of their appearance, they end up falling completely in love. Shortly afterwards, Rumi bumps into one of them, causing her to fall to the ground, but the young man doesn't mind and continues on his way. Irritated by the man's attitude, the performers help their friend up and prepare to leave. At that moment, the trio hears a melody playing, and as they approach the source of the sound, they find the young men dancing and singing around people and discover that they are a new musical collective called Saja Boys. During the performance, the performers discover that they are actually demons in disguise, and Rumi states they need to destroy them as soon as possible. Realizing that their supporters are in danger once more, the members of the Huntress Collective prepare to fight their new rivals and invade the venue where they are performing to carry out a surprise assault. However, the disguised demons already know about the performers' presence, and during the program, they invite them onto the platform, forcing the performers down a slide. Despite being in fury, the entertainers try to prevent their supporters from noticing that something is wrong. And at the conclusion of the show, they set off to chase the collective who ran into a restroom. Quickly, the trio enters the place wielding their weapons. And before they can be attacked, Jinnu opens dozens of portals where several aquatic demons emerge from inside the bathtubs. The huntresses then set off after the creatures, and Rumi runs after the collective, managing to corner Jinnu. At the same time, Zoe and Mira fight side by side to destroy the demons. And during the fight, they observe that Han Moon is becoming increasingly weakened, allowing more monsters to emerge. In one of the saunas, Rumi fights furiously against Jinnu, who dodges his attacks with ease, at which point he sees the performer's symbols on her arm. Confused, the young man begins to wonder how this is possible. And suddenly, one of the creatures destroys part of the wall, allowing the performer to see her friends being surrounded by the infernal entities. Panicked that her secret is about to be discovered, Rumi becomes paralyzed, leaving the pair even more desperate. At that moment, the young woman is saved by Jinnu, who embraces her before running off, tying a piece of fabric around the torn area of her costume. Now that her symbols are protected again, Rumi reunites with her friends. And in just a few seconds, the mystical champions manage to destroy every last demon in the place. Shortly after, the trio is thrown out of the restroom by an old man who goes back to washing normally without even imagining that his spirit is being stolen by one of the creatures who has managed to hide from the warriors. In the Huntress building, the performers observe the city, and when they observe that Han Moon is getting weaker and weaker, they feel worried about what might happen from now on. Suddenly, Bobby appears and states that the Saja Boys are taking over all social networks. Exhausted of it all, Rumi declares that it's time for them to write their next hit melody, and the performers are excited to put an end to those demons once and for all. Later, the leader of the collective goes to her bedroom balcony, where she is surprised by a sinister bird, which leads her to Jinu's infernal tiger. The creature then hands the performer a letter, and upon opening it, Rumi realizes that it is an invitation from the leader of the Saja Boys to meet that night. Shortly afterwards, the tiger teleports away, but despite her reluctance, the young woman decides to accept the invitation and sets off to meet the young man. Upon arriving at the scene, Rumi tries to carry out a surprise assault on Jinu, but she discovers that it was only a mannequin. And when she sees the leader of the rival collective, she tries to attack him once more. The young man then tries to calm her down, stating that he only came to talk, and explains that Gimma was responsible for everything that occurred in his life. Jinu reveals that in the past he had his spirit imprisoned by the demon lord, and feeling that he identifies with her, he asks her to tell him how she received her symbols. However, the performer refuses and tries to attack him, but the young man teleports away, leaving her frustrated. As time goes by, the entertainers continue composing their new melody, and during production, they go out to hunt the demons that arise from Hanmun's flaws. In addition, the infernal tiger continues to torment her, and in order not to be discovered by her friends, she tries to keep the creature hidden in her room. Several days later, the performers are preparing to hold an autograph session for their supporters. But suddenly, they are surprised by the Saja Boys, and so the audience won't be divided. Rumi states that they will all sit together. As a result, the entertainers sign everyone's belongings on the spot. But thanks to this, supporters are starting to create theories about the union of the collectives, claiming that the performers seem to be having love affairs with the members of Saja Boys. Later, while writing the lyrics to the melody in her room, Rumi is surprised by Mira, and despite great difficulty, she manages to hide the infernal tiger, which has begun to stalk her on a daily basis. Realizing that she won't be able to deal with the creature for long, the performer gives up ignoring the invitations and decides to meet Jinu. Meanwhile, infernal entities continue to capture spirits throughout the region, and as the days go by, dozens of people begin to disappear throughout the city. After meeting with Jinu, the young woman claims to have discovered a way to free him from Gue Ma's clutches and reveals that the demon lord will have no influence on the human realm after the Golden Hanmun's generation. Rumi asks the entertainer to help the Huntress Collective become famous again, because once they can make a strong enough connection with their supporters, they can create a barrier that will banish Gue Ma forever. In addition, the performer states that if Jinu wants to be free from the demon lord's manipulations, he can remain in the human realm after the creation of the Golden Han Moon and live the rest of his life in complete freedom. Despite this, the young man is reluctant to accept the request, at which point, the pair is surprised by a bracelet vendor who presents Rumi with one of her products. Trying to convince Jinu, the performer asks him to keep the bracelet and states that the only way they can become free is by defeating the great evil leader. Several days later, the trio of entertainers rehearse on platform at their concert, and Rumi states she doesn't like the lyrics they've produced so far. Upon hearing this, the performers become extremely confused and question their friend about her behavior. But suddenly, a shock wave passes through the place. Believing that a great horde of monsters may be about to emerge, the performers decide to abandon the rehearsal, leaving Bobby alone once more. The trio then go to the top of the subway, where they encounter hundreds of demons coming towards them. In order to protect the passengers, the young women set off in fury against the creatures, destroying dozens of enemies while singing their new melody to weaken them. Despite managing to fight off the demons, Rumi ends up being surprised by a big boss who hits her with a powerful blow, causing her to be thrown away. Quickly, the performers run to protect their friend, and after performing a double combo, Mira sticks her weapon into the ground, destroying all the surrounding creatures. However, it's too late, and as they get off one of the wagons, the performers observe that all the passengers have been captured by the hellish monsters. The subway then arrives at the station, and feeling disappointed by their friend's absence, Mira and Zoe leave. Hours later, Rumi meets Jinu once more, and during the conversation, the young woman admits that since she started talking to him, her voice seems to have returned to normal. Shortly after, the pair starts singing together, and at the conclusion of the melody, Jinu realizes that he can no longer hear Guma's voice in his head. Thanks to this, the young demon ends up convincing himself to help the performer and promises that he will make his collective lose their fame at their next performance. Excited, the young woman decides to return home. But at that moment, Jinu is pulled back into the domains of the Hellish Lord, who reminds him of what he really did in his past. After seeing the memories of when he abandoned his family when they needed his help the most, Jinu panics, But Gima states that he will keep his agreement and remove those memories if his subordinate does as he is told. The next day, the performers manage to reconcile and decide to choose another melody to sing at their next concert. At dusk, the arena fills up with hundreds of thousands of supporters once more, and the presenter kicks off the big show. As they walk towards their dressing room, the performers encounter Jinnu and his collective making their way to the platform, and Rumi observed that the young man seemed to have a much more serious expression than before. Excited, the presenter declares that the Saja Boys show is about to start. But at that moment, all the lights go out, leaving the audience extremely confused. Shortly after, Bobby rushes to warn his entertainers that their rivals have just had a fight on platform and claims that this will be their best opportunity to win back all their supporters. Upon hearing this, the performers feel hopeful and head towards the platform where they start their incredible show, getting the whole audience extremely excited. During the melody, Zoe and Mira run off platform so that Rumi can perform her solo. And before they can get back to the show, they see Bobby being led away by security. Without thinking twice, the performers run to protect their friend. But in doing so, they discover that it was actually a trio of infernal entities who had used their powers to trick them. At the same time, the power in the room is suddenly turned off. And shortly afterwards, a new melody starts up and Rumi observes that this is the lyric they had decided to discard the day before. At that moment, the young woman is surprised by a pair of demons transformed into her friends who start pushing her and surrounding her around the platform, so they can destabilize the performer. The creatures remove Rumi's golden costume, which has her symbols revealed to everyone, causing her to become completely desperate and start screaming. Thanks to this, all the spotlights in the venue are destroyed, and after leaving the platform, the young woman runs into her friends who avoid getting close to her. Panicked, Rumi tries to explain what's happening and shouts for them not to leave her. But this only frightens the performers even more, causing them to draw their weapons to protect themselves. Devastated by everything that has just occurred, the young woman flees the place, and when she meets Jinnu, she wonders why he has done all this. The demon then replies that everything he had stated so far was just a lie, and that Rumi should be content with who she really is since there is nothing that can be done about it. After the argument, Jinnu leaves the place, and feeling guilty for everything that is happening, the young woman gives up on everything, leaving an evil crack wherever she goes. At the same time, Zoe and Mira observe that the Han Moon is about to be completely dissipated, and Bobby remains silent as he witnesses the Huntress Collective's audience dwindling extremely quickly. Shortly afterwards, the Saja Boys appear on all the screens around the venue, and Jinnu reveals that they're going to pay tribute to the performers' collective that was destroyed after the disaster. The entertainer states that his collective will be performing at the Great Spirit Tower and invites everyone to attend the show. Before they can react, Bobby, Zoe, and Mira begin to hear voices in their minds, causing them to lose control of their actions. And just like everyone else, they set off in the direction of the performance. Meanwhile, Jinnu and his collective are waiting for the Great Demon Banquet to begin. And as soon as the show starts, they sing their new melody, wearing their real costumes. As the show goes on, Gui Ma gets bigger and bigger, while the collective uses their powers to float around the platform during their melody. During the performance, the audience goes into a state of hypnosis, causing everyone to start walking towards the hellish rifts. But when all seemed lost, Rumi appears and interrupts the performance with her voice. Feeling victorious, Gimma states that there is nothing more that can be done. And despite his provocations, the young woman decides to continue singing, causing Zoe and Mira to be released from hypnosis. Now that they're back, the performers start singing together. And trying to stop them, the hellish lord conjures up thousands of creatures to destroy them. However, the mystical champions are not intimidated, and using their weapons, they destroy each of the monsters with ease, while their voices cause the Han Moon to begin to emerge. Relieved to be together again, the Huntress Collective embraces, causing their costumes to be transformed into a new version. Without wasting any time, the trio set off towards the platform. But at that moment, Gui Ma absorbs the strength of all the demons around him and throws his flames in Rumi's direction. While the Saja Boys set off to attack Zoe and Mira, before she was destroyed by the Hellish Lord Assault, the young woman was saved by Jinnu, who asked for forgiveness for everything he had caused in her life. Desperate, Rumi begs the young man not to leave because all she wants is for everyone to be free. Jinnu then replies that this has already been achieved and gives his spirit to her friend, causing the Huntress to receive a great level of power. In fury, Rumi delivers a powerful slash to Guema, who is split in half. And then she charges at the Demon Lord while her friends destroy each member of the Saja Boys. To put an end to all this once and for all, the trio unite to fly towards Guema. And with all the power they have received from their supporters, the mystical champions finally manage to defeat him. Thanks to this, Han Moon is completely restored all over the world. And as they are applauded by their supporters, The performers feel happy that they have finally defeated the greatest threat of all time. So, what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you like the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.